Peppers are hot, trendy items these days. You'll find them in a lot of promotional materials, clothing, and you can even buy them as a potted plant. Now, the peppers that we have here are ornamental peppers, and because peppers are becoming so popular, the National Garden Bureau has even designated 1993 as the year of the pepper. And I think part of that is because you'll find peppers in landscapes as well as in the garden. And when they're in the landscape, usually they're the ornamental types. Now, our particular one is sweet pickle ornamental pepper, which is a new one being put out this year by Park Seed Company. It's still a bushy type plant and ornamental appearance, and that is because most ornamental peppers set their fruit on the top in an upright setting where they're more showy as they turn color. The only difference is that these are a little bit bigger, more oval shaped, and they're supposedly a sweeter taste, where most ornamental peppers, if you're familiar with them, especially ones that are this small, are very, very hot. So that's a little bit different twist to them, and they will change colors. We have some orange, red, which they tell us are a little bit sweeter, but there's green, and they'll even turn a purple color as they mature, and ours are just now starting to set a heavy fruit load. And because peppers are becoming so popular, let's join Barb now, and she'll give us some more tips about pepper use.
Since we've gotten so much interest in foods from south of the border, peppers have really become popular in the cuisine of the United States as well. You can see that not only do peppers add a lot of flavor, but they also add a lot of color. The basket we have here gives us red, yellow, orange. You can also get purple peppers, almost black peppers. There's a wide variety. Now, these peppers in the basket are bell peppers, which most of us are familiar with. They're basically the same. The only difference is in the color. The red ones do add a little bit more sweetness, and as a result, they also add just a few more calories. However, peppers overall, even including the red ones, are low in calories. They're also high in vitamin A and vitamin C. Now, there are some hotter varieties. These varieties are very mild. These we begin to see something a little bit hotter. Now, this is an Anaheim pepper, also sometimes called a New Mexico pepper, and it begins to heat up a little bit. One thing you can do with the hotter ones is to eat from the bottom end. Just eat a little bit, and if you are careful not to bruise it and not get any of the membranes, you won't get as much of the heat. This is a jalapeno pepper, which a lot of us think is one of the hotter varieties. In actuality, when you start going up the heat scale, it's only about in the middle. Some of the hottest ones, the hottest one that I found indicated was a habanero pepper, which would knock my socks off for sure. Now, this is black pepper, and black pepper is not related to the others, and that's just a confusion I think that Columbus contributed to when he came and thought he was in India and thought that these were hot, they must be pepper, and so he established that confusion. In actuality, these probably should be called chilies in order to avoid some of that confusion. Now, one of the things that a lot of people have problems with when we work with peppers is that they get burned, particularly when they're working with the hot ones. Mild bell peppers are not going to burn you, so that you really don't need to take any protective measures. Make sure the pepper is washed well before you start working with it, and then go ahead and cut it in half. Remove the seeds and the membranes. Now, I'm going to go ahead and cut one of these open for you so you can see what I'm talking about a little bit. Now, most of you, I imagine, have worked with peppers before and are aware that there are seeds inside. The seeds on the hot peppers are not where the heat is. The hotness is from the membranes that attach the seed in there. Now, if this was a hot pepper, I would wear plastic gloves or something, and I would remove the seeds prior to cooking and prior to eating if I wanted to reduce the heat a little bit. It's very easy to do with these. You might want to turn it down over and shake a few extra seeds out. With this kind of pepper, it's just a matter of how you want to eat it, whether you want the seeds there or not. Now, what I'm going to do with these today is roast them. I want to actually get them so that the flesh becomes a little bit sweeter, a little bit meatier, and I want to be able to get the peel off, because often when you cook peppers, the peel comes off somewhere along the line anyway. Now, what we basically do is line a cookie sheet that's got a little bit of an edge to it with some aluminum foil, and then we just flatten it with the palm of your hand. And you can do several at a time if you've got a big enough oven. Now, there are several ways to do this as well. This is one of the ways that I happen to like. You can also stick a fork in the stem end and hold them over a gas flame or an open flame. You can put the whole pepper, seeds and all, into the oven and let it bake at 400 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes. What I've done with this technique that I find works a little better is to flatten them out so that they're fairly flat. Then I'm going to put them under the broiler, and I want them fairly low so that it will all cook at the same rate. That's why I've squashed them as much as I can. Otherwise, we have this part getting black a little bit sooner than the other. This goes under the broiler broiler for about 12 minutes when it gets really black and charred. Now, as soon as they come out of the oven, you want to have a heavy-duty freezer bag, a plastic bag, and you can see how black they get in the freezer, or in the broiler, excuse me. You leave them in here for about 15 minutes inside the bag, and that gives time for the skin to loosen up a little bit more, and at that point you can simply peel it off. Now this is going to taste charred, so you want to get as much of it off as you can. Now for the recipe that I'm doing today, we're having roasted peppers and olives. And what I did was went ahead and peeled the peppers, and I have one yellow one and one red one, and I sliced them into about 1-inch pieces by about 1/4 inch. Now to that I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of sliced green olives, 2 tablespoons of ripe olives, also sliced, a teaspoon of olive oil, just a little bit of freshly ground pepper, and then about, half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of capers, which if you don't have on hand, you could easily leave out. This is sort of an optional ingredient. Now this you want to stir together and then let it marinate or blend flavors on the kitchen counter for about, or at room temperature, for about 2 hours. Now I wouldn't recommend that you let it sit in much longer than that at room temperature because of the questions with food safety here, because we haven't added anything that's going to be real acidic to this, and we would worry a little bit. This would then go over some toast slices once it's had time for the flavors to blend a bit, either French toast or other types of bread that you may have ready, and become either an hors d'oeuvre or a side dish. Now, as far as how much pepper you need per serving, it would basically be 1 large pepper or 1 medium pepper would be a serving. If you're using hot peppers, of course, you're going to want to eat them about as much as you can stand, and not much longer than that. I hope you'll look in your garden, look in the grocery store. If you don't have one kind of pepper, you can always substitute another. Use your imagination and do some experimenting with some of the recipes that you're familiar with and some that you may want to look at in the future. For Oklahoma Gardening, this is Barbara Brown.